Okay, I see what's going on here. N.E.R.D and his artist friends are trying to hack the YouTube algorithm again by using a popular IP with a big release coming up. Personally, I would have rather wanted them to use Beetlejuice, but that's just me. Anyway, I only know all this because yesterday I was in my lab working on a new invention. Basically, since the spooky season is coming up, I invented this ray gun that, when shot at people, can turn them into a weird horror monster-like version of themselves. Could make for a great Halloween costume. Either way, I was working on this, when suddenly a giant metal xenomorph burst through my wall. It looked almost like a T-Rex, so, figuring how this was a Transformers episode, I figured this was supposed to be Grimlock as a xenomorph. However, it almost looked like N.E.R.D couldn't decide which version of Grimlock to use, so he decided to do a hodgepodge of all of them. Now at first, I simply wanted to turn myself into another T-Rex and go at this thing mano a mano, taking it into the city and causing more destructions and explosions than a Michael Bay movie. However, if you watch the most recent community redraw, or artist adaptations as N.E.R.D likes to call them, but come on, we all know they're community redraws. Anyway, then you'll know that I recently acquired a new form I can transform into, one made with the DNA of SCP-682, the hard-to-destroy reptile. Obviously, I was eager to try out this new form, and decided that this was as good of an opportunity as ever. I transformed, and then our battle began. The Xenolock shot a few laser beams out of its mouth, but I was able to fortunately dodge them. I then tried the most stupid thing I could think of. I ran up the Xenolock's back and bit directly into its head. Now, xenomorphs are known for having acid for blood, meaning that me biting into its head caused me to immediately have acid shot into my mouth. This hurt like a trick, but after a few minutes, the pain subsided, and I now had a hard, metallic-like skin that provided some form of acid immunity. At that point, the battle was practically over, and it didn't take long for me to render the Xenolock defeated. However, there are still a few drawbacks to this form. With most dinosaurs, I can stay transformed into them for a solid hour. However, the time I can stay as SCP-682 is much less, tapping out at only a half hour. In addition, the next time I had to transform into 682, I no longer had the metallic skin, meaning that whatever adaptations I make during battles reset themselves each time. It's almost like N.E.R.D worried that I would be too OP and intentionally tried to nerf me. Thanks for that, I say sarcastically. Hello again, and welcome back to the Eye of Draconic. I am Drakendoltgon, and I will be a guide. Today we'll be talking about a rather strange subspecies of dragon. This subspecies, called the Transforming Mimics, are dragons that can shapeshift into various forms, sometimes resembling other animals, sometimes resembling human weaponry, and sometimes transforming into I don't know what. Within the subspecies, there appear to be two factions that are constantly fighting each other for territory. One is known as the Autosaurs, and the other the Deceptiles. The two factions have been at war for centuries, with no signs of them ever letting up anytime soon. Currently, we only have a single member of the subspecies on the Isle, known as the Screaming Star Beast. While this dragon is much smaller and weaker than the others in its clan, it has a few advantages that cause it to be seen as useful. Not only is it one of the fastest dragons that I've encountered, easily able to outspeed even a royal lightning bolt, but also, in addition, this dragon is also quite cunning, able to easily manipulate its prey and adversaries. Before we capture it, this dragon was the primary lackey of a creature known as the Megadon, a large dragon that could shapeshift into a large cannon, oddly enough. Though it seemed to be loyal to the Megadon, we highly suspect that the Screaming Star Beast was likely looking to betray it and take over as leader of the Deceptiles. We have also suspected that the Megadon is fully aware of this, but simply doesn't care. Van Helsing's Journal, September 9th. Though I live in a world that is already filled to the brim with monsters and creatures of darkness, for some reason humanity always feels the need to create more. For example, many millennia ago, an unknown group of sorcerers created a group of automatons that could transform into tools, vehicles, and weapons for humans' use. However, these automatons soon became fully self-aware, and went on to form their own society. However, as with all societies, conflicts soon arose. The automaton civilization was thrust into a civil war between two factions, and unfortunately, humanity was caught in the crossfire. For example, one day, I was having a nice drink in a German bar when I heard a noise coming from outside. I look and I see two automatons fighting. One I did not recognize, so it was red and yellow automaton armed with a crossbow. The other one I recognized immediately, and knew he was bad news. This was Soundwave, an automaton bard. Using his powers of music, he could create and control other automatons, most of which resembled smaller humanoid automatons or animals. At first I was simply going to let the red automaton handle it, but it appeared he was quickly overrun. So I had to step in. Knowing this particular breed of automaton's power comes from a magical cube in their chest cavity, I snuck behind the monster while it was attempting to finish off the red automaton. I then used my whip to trip the creature, causing it to fall on its face. I was then quickly attacked by two of its minions, an automaton dog and bird. Fortunately, while they were distracted by me, the red automaton was able to become free enough to run over to Soundwave and shoot him right through the back, highly damaging his core. Soundwave, seeing as he was defeated, quickly ran off while swearing revenge. The red automaton, who introduced himself as Pastor, thanked me and left to cause property destruction elsewhere.
So, you called this emergency meeting?
Well, it wasn't actually an emergency meeting, more like a fun announcement.
Okay, you may continue.
So, the other day I was looking across the multiverse, looking to find allies, more beings to fuse, really anything interesting, and I found a group that is interesting in allying with us. They are referred to as the O5 Council from Dimension S24. They are a group of 5 who run a secret organization that exists to contain anomalous entities from their world. I'm aware, at first glance, this sounds like a noble goal. However, the way they go about it is diabolical.
A group doing the wrong things for the right reasons. Interesting. They would get along great with us.
Exactly. So I brought them in for a meeting, and they agreed to join. And I even managed to cut a special deal with one of them. One of the members, a man only referred to as Jay, was intrigued by a recent creation of mine. This symbiote-infused Cybertronian. He asked several questions about the symbiote, and, eventually, asked me if I could have a few samples they can test back in his dimension. I allowed him to. For a price, of course.
What was this price?
Oh, nothing too significant. Anyway, he now plans to infect some of the SCPs of his world, and I now have access to a wide catalog of SCPs to fuse into monstrous members of our army.
Good work as always, Seller. Speaking of which, how is that hit you sent out on that Universal Man coming along?
Well, I hired a very eager Yautja to do it, but after he sent a few xenomorphs to their lair, he became far more obsessed with that Dino Dude.
I see. You may want to try some new strategies. We need that universal piece if we even want a chance at fulfilling our mission.